Stuck in a super loop. Yo, what's up? It's Someone That's Someone, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by Andrew L, where he took a tab of LSD, cannabis, and tobacco. And here's the full report details. Alright, so another first time acid trip sent in by Andrew. This is really well written, and pretty subjective and unique. Andrew ends up having a really strong trip for his first time, and this goes far beyond his expectations. It is pretty humorous too, and I'm sure a lot of you will find it relatable. But I won't spoil anything, so without further ado, let's dive right into this. Okay, so I had this trip about 4 to 6 months ago. It was the best/worst thing that ever happened to me. I'm not having any PTSD or any weird things happen anymore. It was a chilly January day. It's been 2020 for an official 26 days now, and I woke up to heaven. I've had my tabs for a few days now, knowing it's about to be my first experience ever with LSD. I'm the type of teenager who would pretty much do any drug other than heroin, crack, or meth. Pretty much all I worry about is smoking weed and sitting at home, which I know is a bad trait, but I'm working on doing better in school. Anyway, I hit up a few buddies that wanted to trip but never did it before. We all have a mutual friend that I'ma call John. John was experienced in tripping and can get tabs on certain days of the week. So I got mine a few days before I hit up the two friends that wanted to trip. I didn't really have anxiety, but I was about to try something I low-key didn't even expect to work the way people said. So on a Friday afternoon on January 26th at about 5:30, I headed over to my friend's house. My dad the whole time on the way over there was just giving me tips and things to do while I was tripping, like smoke cigs and hit bowls. One thing he told us was not to leave the house no matter what, especially since it was our first trip. We finally pulled up, and my dad being the plug, LOL, he threw me some bud that he said was pretty good and looked okay. Anyway, I texted my friends and they hopped in the car, and my dad told us what we should do for the rest of the night. Then we all hopped out and hopped in my friend Jack's car. I told my dad we were going to get some food and drinks for the night. After getting orange juice, Gatorade, and a few pizzas, we headed home to eat with Jack's grandparents. They were too old to really know what was going on. At about 8:30 p.m., we dosed. I didn't taste anything, so I knew it wasn't a spitter. At about 9 p.m., I swallowed the tab. I told everyone that we should go chug the biggest glass of orange juice since I heard that it can change your trip just a little bit, and after that, we should roll up a blunt. So at about 9:25, we're smoking. And I'm seeing some pretty cool shit while repeating, I didn't know science made no shit like this, LOL. Oh, and I don't know if I mentioned, but it was kinda dark and a gloomy day. Still drizzling, cloudy and cold. The outlines of the trees were starting to look like SpongeBob and Patrick, and we were laughing hysterically. But then I realized there was a party down the road. It was like 20 minutes away by car, and I had to go, even though I've been warned that experiencing acid for the first time around a group of people who don't understand what you're feeling was a terrible idea. We all three left the house, listening to music loud and just feeling great. The road signs were like 3D. I had an outline of red and white, or yellow and white with red. The music sounded like it was from heaven, and that everything was meant to be like this. But I still had the urge that I had to prepare for something. Like, my whole life led up to this one moment. But I started listening to music again and just enjoyed the moment. We finally got to the party, and it felt like it took forever to get there. But we were there. And we all three looked at each other, smiled, and said, "Let's party." As we're walking up, everyone was already looking at us weird. Later on, I find out my friend Mark, who was having the party, literally told everyone we're on acid, so don't act weird to scare us or anything. Which was already weird enough, because everyone was acting like we're retarded. But out of us three, Rob was acting suspicious. He wasn't having fun, and didn't look like he was having a good time. So me and Jack pulled him to the side to see if we could help. The first thing he said was, "I think your dad is right. Everyone here looks weird and is acting shady," which I didn't feel at all. I liked the attention and that my mind wasn't worried about my phone, which I know now I never want to have my phone on me while tripping. Anyway, we decided to leave. I looked at the clock and it said 10:33. which we knew at 11 we would hit our peak and really be fucked. We called John just to let him know how it was going. He was telling us we better stop driving and get home. The way he said the saying was so funny to this day. It was, "You're gonna get to McDonald's and you're not gonna know how to get the fuck back. LOL. Well, as we're driving, things start to get intense. Like it's taking longer to get home than to the party. We got home at 10:57 p.m. And I remember because when we got in the house, I asked if they wanted to smoke another blunt since we're peaking. They said no and said a few words like, "Why do you always have to get super fucked up? You don't even need the blunt and you want to smoke." Which, after those words right there, it made me feel like they were against me. And as if I was a small boat in a huge storm in the middle of the ocean, right as the camera is pulling back to make the boat look smaller and smaller. I got mad and walked outside to smoke by myself since it was my weed. As I started smoking, I felt different, like something wasn't right. So I tried to take my mind off of it by FaceTiming a girl to make it better. Both my friends FaceTimed their girls. They were comforting them and wishing they could be here too. Well, of course the bitch I called, because I was in love, just freaked out on me and started screaming, which also just made me feel like an outcast in our little friend group. So I started smoking, which really just made me feel like I needed the bud, which was never okay for me. I never liked the feeling of needing a drug to cope with pain because I don't think it's a good mindset. But I needed this blunt. I started ripping it until I turned and see my other two friends walking out to sit with me. I looked at them and said, "I know y'all motherfuckers want to smoke. I ain't stupid." Which they looked at me, laughed, and said yeah. Which made me feel even more mad because they made me feel like shit, even though I knew they would have liked to smoke. So as we're smoking, they walked inside, but my head was down and I started to fall in a hole, like the rain hole off Alice in Wonderland. The super old cartoon version of the cat and caterpillar appeared. The cat to my left and the caterpillar to my right, replacing my two friends. But when I picked up my head, I was still there and didn't even realize it. I just felt like I was still as could be in a galaxy full of nothing. But I still seen the rabbit hole and my two new friends. It felt like I was looking at them both, the cat and the bug. It was as if we were all saying the same thing, and I couldn't make it out, but we were saying it at the exact same time. And as soon as I said this phrase, I fell through a super loop. The cat, the caterpillar, and I said, "You're falling down the hole." And woof, I woke up and nobody was there. They had walked back inside, and I had a full loss of where I was and what was going on. I thought I died because every time I closed my eyes or tried to get away from the house, I woke up in Jack's room on the bed screaming, "If this is real life, you'll let me outside!" They finally let me outside, and I ran out. It still didn't feel real, so I kept looking at my phone for the time to change, but time just wouldn't change. Then after 100 years, I kid you not, it changed from 12:11 a.m. to 12:12. And my excuse was, it's still not real because it took too long to change. It felt like I lost myself and that I was fighting to live. The fight was break the loop and I'm free. But I thought the loop was never over. I honestly thought I was dead and in hell. The thought of being stuck in a super loop or in hell like that is so heartbreaking. Like I've always told myself, I'm not scared of dying, when it's actually my biggest fear. I love life and I love living. I couldn't imagine just being nothing, or stuck in nothing forever, or having to relive the same memory forever. Those are things that scare me. Also, while I'm outside, I literally have socks on, pants on, and no shirt, and it's like 38 degrees outside. My two friends chased me down the scary dirt road, and woods Jack of course lives by. I stopped, looked at Rob, and said, "Time isn't real. None of this is real. My life led up to this one moment to last forever, and I'm dead." And Rob, being who he is, tried to help me by saying, "Time is real, and it's passing. You're gonna be okay." His face was literally morphing, and his voice sounded like the little crazy guy off Lord of the Rings. It freaked me out worse, and I had moments where I was completely batshit. I'm surprised my bigger friend Jack didn't knock me out. But finally, after a little while of freaking out, I remembered about my dad and realized he told me I could call him whenever I wanted to, and that he would wake up. So I thought that would prove I'm alive. Us three are all outside. and they were literally holding me so I don't try to run into the freaking woods half naked while trying to call my dad tripping balls. Well, he did answer, but when I freaked out and told him that time isn't real and that I'm gonna die, he literally just said, "Oh my fucking god, you're not gonna die, and by the way, I knew this was gonna happen." He literally just kept repeating the same stuff, which wasn't happening because I now know I was just having a thought loop. But he would hang up, and 2 seconds felt like years. So I kept calling him, and then I just realized while I was tripping that he was fake, and just kept telling me that he was gonna save me, but he wasn't really gonna show up. I finally said it. If this is real life, I can call my grandma, which was my mom's dad, and she'll wake up and save me. My dad said this so fast, which kills me in laughter every time I think about it. "Motherfucker, if you want to call her, I'ma beat the fuck out of you, I swear to God." Which I replied, "Alright, this is real. LOL. But I still didn't believe it and said one last thing. If this is real life, y'all can drive me to my mom's house, which she didn't live far. So while we're in the car going like 45, I tried to jump out the car twice. Rob was holding me down, telling me everything's gonna be okay. We got to my mom's, I saw my dad, and it felt like I survived. Like I felt like I'd just been stuck on an island for 2 weeks and finally got saved. It was the best feeling ever. While I was in the car with my dad, he had this golden light around him, and I felt like he was my guardian angel. I just kept saying shit like, this was meant to be, and what if I was meant to trip around you only, and stuff like that, LOL. But then I looked up and realized all the houses we were passing looked the same, and I freaked out again because I started seeing the same memories again. Well, we finally got home. We later get in the car for a few hours, just listening to classic rock to calm my nerves, and I smoked the rest of my Newports before finally crawling on the couch and being able to sleep. The next morning I still had slight paranoia, and it felt like I was wearing like shady glasses or something like that with my vision. But I finally figured my trip out, which is the only reason I wrote this. And there were a few personal things that happened that I'm not going to speak on, but really changed the way I think about things now. It hasn't really changed that I'm still pretty lazy, but I appreciate stuff more. And when I work for things I want, it feels so much better when rewarded. Thanks for listening, and it would sound more interesting if you were here in person to listen. Thumbs up.